Are we recording?
Now we are.
Now we are. So we're here today at Lechuza Beach in Malibu. It's a little private beach. We're having a nice little beach day, and we decided to bring our podcast gear and do a podcast on the beach.
Mm-hmm. So welcome to Hanging Out Forever, but really this is called Hanging Outside.
Because we're hanging outside.
Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to do with this first Hanging Outside segment is show you guys, we had this one post that went crazy viral. By the time you see this video, it might be at 10 million views plus. Who knows? Right now it's at 9.
Yep.
And everybody in the comments was complaining about how difficult it is to take a woman on a date or take anybody on a date, and that women don't take men on dates and men don't have time to take women on dates.
Lots of interesting conversations happening in the comments.
Happening in the comments.
Definitely.
So we just wanted to show you guys that if you set aside time, this is kind of like our full day. We've been getting ready for this all day. Mm-hmm. But essentially we got here, like we've been here for maybe an hour. So don't count that into our date time because we did have to do all this setting up with the cameras and everything.
That's true.
But we have chips, Lunchables, because you know we healthy. And we have a squirt, which is an amazing, as it says, thirst quencher. Mm-hmm. And all of this wonderful stuff right here costs $14.21 at the local beach Chevron. So the excuses of dates are too expensive and women want us to spend thousands of dollars on dates, or dates are supposed to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. No, this is a $14.21
and this
date.
Beautiful ocean here, free 99.
Free 99.
Free 99, baby. So, yeah, I think that's kind of... I think that's a thing that people get in their head about, especially guys, because they feel like they're going to have to spend all this money or put all this effort and put all this time into a date. But, you know, there's lots of women out there who don't really need this extravagant date. You can really just come to the beach. There's lots of museums out there. If you have a beach, there's lots of museums. There's lots of galleries. Things like that you can do free events, you know, and make it a cheap date.
Right.
But an eventful date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be packed with a bunch of crazy things that you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. It can be emotionally eventful, mentally eventful. Yeah. Because this feels like an event to us. Again, we do have a different situation because we're setting up podcast stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think that also getting creative with what your resources are. Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part of figuring out a date is being creative. So you do need to set aside a creative mindset for that, or some creativity for it, because especially if you want it to be a cheap date, then you're going to have to be creative on it being fun, eventful, and figuring something out that will work.
Mm-hmm. So as a man and seeing the kind of comments that we've been receiving in the comments.
Yes.
Section, what advice would you give to men out there, and what kinds of things have you experienced as a man dating a woman in life? How have you had to kind of move past any roadblocks mentally to become a more creative person that can bring fun dates out, and how did you get there? If that's too many questions at once, I'll rephrase them one by one.
Well, I think that the main thing was knowing that the little things add up, you know, the little things really count. Getting flowers, doing little things for your partner, you know, it doesn't have to be these big extravagant things. It kind of goes back to that of just making sure that you're conscious and you're on top of these things, making sure that you're acknowledging your partner and acknowledging that if she's going through something and she needs to get out of the house, you need to figure something out to get her out of the house and help with her clearing of the mind, you know?
Mm-hmm. What do you have to say about you also going through something simultaneously with your partner, but prioritizing what they're going through?
Well, I think it's an exchange with you and your partner, you know? You want to be with, first off, you want to be with a partner who will pick you up when you need it as well, you know? Because there is that exchange that you need in a relationship, so it's balanced. So if your partner needs to be picked up and you need to take her out or, you know, get her out of the house, even if it's just for a drive or driving to a nice lookout. It can literally just be something as easy as that, you know, and that will get them out of their head and help in whatever way they need help with. But also you should find a partner that will do the same for you. And I think once you do find a partner that will do the same for you, it'll encourage you to do it more for your partner.
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of what we've seen on the internet is people having anxiety around relationships and being scared to put all into somebody and then not be receiving it back. And so there's all of this rhetoric around that women just want your money and women just want to take, right? But I think that a lot of that is fear-based, because even with you, I would say in our relationship, you've never been like, oh, she just wants to take all my money. Yeah. But I think that there have been maybe concerns internally, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you feel like I'm continuously taking from you when you might not feel like you're in a place to give, if you have anxiety or if you're busy with your business, because you're an entrepreneur, so you do get consumed a lot with your own thing. And so I think it's a lot of what we see is surrounded by anxiety and also feeling like you don't have the time for yourself. So how could you possibly make the time for somebody else?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a issue that I have, is I get in my head a lot about things. I get overwhelmed. You know me, I'm a terrible multitasker, so it's hard for me to juggle a lot of things, but it really just takes time to build that muscle, you know? And if you have a partner who is patient with you and sees that you have that in you, or you're really trying, you're really putting in the effort, then you're able to build that over time and get better at organizing your day, you know, organizing your workload, making sure that you're setting time aside for your partner. All that stuff comes with time, because in the beginning of a relationship, especially if you've been single for however many years, the only person you have been taking care of is yourself, and the only person you've been worrying about is yourself. So it takes time to adjust to a new partner and a person that you want to put that effort into. So that definitely takes time, and it took time for me, you know. Like, it took us time to really get on the same page with things like that, with me being able to set aside time for you, or me being just active.
Yeah, more spontaneous, more active, because you can be very rigid with your time.
Yeah.
And I think that affects you in ways where you overanalyze how much you have to do, so what you have to do feels like a lot more than actually what needs to be done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I definitely take small events and blow them up into this huge thing in my mind, you know.
Amplifying your own stressors.
Exactly. And that's the anxiety that kind of takes over and pushes me back in that way. You know, it really, like, puts me at a halt and holds me back.
Do you feel like dates for you personally are necessary? And second part of that question is, do you feel like in general dates for men are necessary?
For the
where
woman
the man is on the receiving end of the date.
I think it's important for men to receive dates as well. Definitely. It just shows that exchange. It shows that balance in a relationship. You know, dates shouldn't just be a man giving to a woman, you know. But, you know, I mean, obviously in the beginning, I think that a woman should be courted, because that's what a gentleman does. But, you know, down, like, into the relationship, I think that it's important to have balance, you know, and it's important to do things for one another and just show that you care for one another and show that you want to do nice things for each other. I think that's important.
I think that with the whole dating thing, it's important to never stop dating your partner.
Yeah.
Because I remember in the beginning years of our relationship, it was really rocky for us, because I felt like we were not going out and we weren't dating. It felt kind of...
We weren't traveling.
And you were in a different workplace situation at the time.
Yeah.
So it felt like I could never get you out of the house when you got off work and stuff like that. And that was very frustrating for me, because I want to see the world, and let's go to the redwoods, and let's travel here, and let's go here, and we don't have to spend a bunch of money. Let's just sleep in the car. Yeah. Because you know me, I love to sleep in the car.
I know, and that was foreign to me. That idea. The idea of doing a cheap road trip and sleeping in the car and doing all that stuff, like, I was not used to that, you know? And it didn't sound fun to me. So, yeah, I need an Airbnb or a cabin or at least a tent, maybe a tent, you know?
A tent? We've been watching a lot of stuff about polar bears and bears attacking. You can miss me with the tent.
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't do a tent neither, but...
I'd rather sleep in the car.
But I wasn't used to being that adventurous, I guess. And you have definitely opened me up a lot in that way.
Just making sure we're still recording.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You have definitely helped expand, you know, my spontaneous actions and stuff, and have really helped me come out of the box in that way, because, you know, I just want to. You make it a good point of, I want to experience things with you, and I want to travel with you, and I want to have these experiences, and that makes sense to me, you know, and now that we have traveled and I've gotten out there and I've experienced things, now I've kind of caught the bug, and I'm like, let's travel.
I know, I love that.
Yeah. So I think that I've definitely opened up in a lot of different ways. Definitely opened up in that way of being more open to travel and being spontaneous, but we're not sleeping in no car.
I sleep in a car.
We're not sleeping
in a car.
No. Sleeping in the car days is done, baby.
What you mean sleeping in the car days is done?
I don't know. But
Grant's like, I came from the
coming.
bottom.
Yeah. Sleeping in the car days is done when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Always had a bed.
Grant can't even sleep on an inflatable mattress, y'all. He is a bougie traveler.
There's some that I've slept on that were pretty damn comfortable, actually. There was some.
Okay, rare.
But, you know, at the end of the day, if you love that person and you want to expand your relationship and you want to make it your partner know that you're all in, you have to put time aside to go on dates and do little things for them. And going on a date doesn't have to be something expensive. It can be as easy as going to the beach if you have access, going to a free event, anything like that. As long as you're putting in that work and putting in that effort, your partner will appreciate it.
I think that for me, too, it makes me feel young. You know, it makes me feel like we're still in the honeymoon phase.
Oh, yeah.
You still think I'm sexy. You still think I'm pretty, especially when I dress up and you got your hands all over me and stuff. And I'm like, sir, we just met. You know what I mean? It brings back that feeling of, this is so fresh and this is so new, and let's break the pattern and let's get out of this mindset of being at home and working and pedal to the metal and nose to the ground and all of these other entrepreneurial and, you know, general work-based things. And I think that for me, it's important to show that intentional time is still important to you.
Yeah.
Because, and I also think this has a lot to do with our love languages as well, because my love language, I would say that my top one is probably acts of service. I think it's changed. Before I thought it was gifts, but now I think it's acts of service.
Yeah.
And then I think it's gifts.
I think they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
That's true. I agree with that. And yours are quality time and words of affirmation.
Definitely.
And so I remember before when we started dating, I would say stuff like, when was the last time we went on a date? We haven't gone on a date, blah, blah, blah. You know, nagging, it is what it is. And you would say, well, we just went to lunch yesterday. And I had to understand that that's a date in your mind. Yeah. So I had to make clear that that's not a date in my mind. Going to
anything
the Cheesecake
food
Factory,
related is a good time for me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Going to the Cheesecake Factory, like I said in the comments, because you guys are both hungry, is not a date. You guys are going out to eat. That's kind of, in my mind, that's like calling Ralph's a date.
It's like a daily thing that you do.
Right, but
already.
if you go to the Cheesecake Factory and your intent is, I want to take you on a date, Cheesecake Factory is a really good bomb happy hour with cheap-ass drinks and really good happy hour food.
So there has to be more intention into it.
There has to be more intention. It can't just be like, you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
What you want to eat? Such and such, let's go. That's not a date.
That's true.
There has to be planning. It needs to feel like it took you time and that it mattered enough for you to carve out time in your life and your job and whatever patterns of, you know, your daily is to feel special, because you should never stop feeling special in your relationship. Yeah,
and I think that seems to be the most difficult thing, is people carving out time, you know. And we're entrepreneurs, and we work a lot and we don't
Yeah.
have structured hours or structured schedules. It's the thing of I gave up a 9 to 5 to work 24/7. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's harder for us to carve out time because we don't have this structured schedule of, after 5 o'clock, I'm free. We always have something going on, or we have something that we could be doing, and we really need to prioritize each other.
Yeah.
And it's important to.
I think that also with the 9 to 5 job, I don't want to make it seem as though you guys have more time because you work a 9 to 5, right? But what I do want to say is when you were working a 9 to 5, you were, and not that this is everybody's situation, but when you were working a 9 to 5, you were a lot less happy. And that is when you had the least amount of time for our relationship, because I think you kind of get into the grind of every day, 9 to 5, every day.
When you're doing something,
especially if you don't want to do it,
however many hours a day, and you do not want to be there, your energy will be drained. You will be completely drained. Other than if you're doing something active all day, but you love it, you'll still keep a good amount of energy at the end of it because you feel fulfilled from it.
Yeah.
Because you can just drain yourself with something that you don't want to be doing, and I understand. I mean, people got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard to balance, but relationships are hard.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you have to prioritize your partner, or you have to prioritize your relationship.
In what ways do you feel prioritized by me?
Prioritized by you?
Yeah. In what ways do you feel like I prioritize you?
I think, you're a very selfless person. So you put everybody in your life, you put before you. All your family, everybody who's close with you, you're very selfless. So I feel that automatically from you. But also, you love taking me on dates, and you love doing things for me, fun events for us, setting us up with fun things to do. And you show like real, genuine excitement and joy for doing things for me, And so I just know that you love me and you love doing things for me, and you want to appreciate me in that way. And I appreciate that.
You're so sweet.
My baby.
I think that you are you're such a hard worker, and oftentimes I feel I'm very expansive. You know how we've been talking about recently that I'm very expansive and I can do a million things at once. And so sometimes I feel like I'm not giving you enough credit because I can move so fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you don't move at my pace, or you're not moving at a pace that I expect, I feel myself unconsciously maybe discrediting you. And so I have to catch myself when I do that and be like, let me do something intentional for him, because I have been really hard on him lately, or I've been hard on myself, and sometimes I project that onto you, like when we went to Foodie Land, or even I think I did something for your birthday, and then I did the podcast event for your birthday too. We did two things. We did something on your birthday day, and then I took you to San Diego, and then we did that thing that you've been wanting to do forever.
What we did on my birthday.
It was whatever it was. I remember spending some money. So
Yeah.
I remember doing that, but I think that the goalpost in our relationship has moved so many times, which in my mind is natural and normal, because we've been together for 7 years. We've been together since our very, very early 20s.
Things are getting more serious and growing.
And as that time progresses, my expectations change. And as my expectations change for what I want for myself, they also change for what I expect from you.
Yeah.
I think that with the dating situation, I feel like we're still in a really level ground as it pertains to dating. I'm not expecting you to like pop bottles, and I don't know if people want to buy out. Oh, all right. We have to change the cameras. 1 second. So basically the point I'm trying to make is a lot of comments were saying nothing is enough for women, and essentially that women are always moving the goalpost in a relationship and in life and blah, blah, blah. And I wholeheartedly think that you should move the goalpost. That's how you grow.
There's different levels to a relationship too.
Yeah.
There's a beginning,
Right.
There's a middle and there's an end, and
Maybe for some people.
well, I mean, there's different levels, there's different tiers in a relationship, and the longer you're together, the more you guys are growing as independent people, the more that you grow, the tougher it's going to get.
And I think that with the goalpost thing, where it's moving the goalpost, it's not an intentional moving of the goalpost. It's not an intentional moving of the goalpost to say, you're not enough, let's see if you can get here. It's more like, as I said, we've been together for 7 years since we were in our early 20s. And what I wanted when I was 20 is not what I want now.
Yeah.
My dreams versus 20 versus
Your
now are
goals are
completely
different.
different. Goals are different. Mindset is different. Maturity is different. I want my money to be different. I want my life experiences to be different.
Yeah.
And so if I expect those things from myself, then I also expect to experience those things with my partner and to be given those things with my partner. Because I remember
we both should be feeling that independently as well as people.
Right.
As we grow.
Exactly. And I remember being younger and thinking I'd never buy a designer bag, and I only have one designer bag, but when I bought it, it felt like, wow, I did it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just something that I never thought I would ever want, and then I was able to get. So that's cool. But I think it should also be the same thing. The designer bag is just an example for your relationship.
Yeah.
You didn't have that mindset of a designer bag at 20, and now you do at your age. And so therefore, you're going to start working to maintain, either if you want to continue getting those types of bags or whatever, you want to start working to maintain that lifestyle, that livelihood, and those expectations for your partner. And I think that in our relationship, it's been a little bit difficult for each of us, because when I'm like, well, I want this now, you're like, but I just gave you this. So,
and I think that it is possible for one person to be moving forward a little quicker than the other.
Yeah.
And even maybe somebody has higher expectations than the other, or one is just set up to be able to move faster. And I think that's where people start to get upset, where these men or whatever start to get kind of upset, because
just people in general
like feel like they can't keep up, and
it's intimidating to feel like you have to keep up with somebody constantly moving.
And it feels like a lot of pressure. I feel that with you. I feel sometimes I feel like I'm behind, or I feel like there's imbalance, and it puts a lot of pressure on you to perform and to do great.
How do you get through that? And how does that affect your life in other ways?
The best way to get through it is to communicate with your partner and make sure that you're completely transparent with your partner on how you're feeling, and that you let them know that you want this and you want to keep trying, you want to keep pushing. And you also have to show with your actions as well, You have to keep pushing, keep just working towards what you say you're going to work towards.
A fact, yeah.
And you have to show that. You have to show improvement. And so but it is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and especially if you genuinely want this and you're in it and you're 100% with it, it feels scary that I may lose this because I don't feel like I can be enough for it.
Yeah.
And that's a scary feeling.
I think that I have a scary feeling, kind of opposite spectrum, where realistically I love you and I want to try everything we can to make this work, case in point the podcast, but there are times where I'm scared if we're going to make it, or if we're going to be enough for each other at the end of the road, or like before we get married or before we get engaged. So I just know that at the end of the day we both have our fears, and I'm trying my best
to persevere.
Not just persevere, but see you where you are and try to meet you there emotionally and mentally, so that you feel like you're not alone, because I know that me as a person, I can be very isolating.
And I want you to know that, like, I want to show you how dedicated I am to getting to that level with you there, and making sure that I'm persistent and I'm sticking to it. Because I really want this, I think we both do. And we're continuously finding a balance, continuously finding ourselves to be on the same page. and we're getting through it. You know, we're figuring it out, and
Yeah.
that's all you can do.
You've been worth it every
Yeah,
single year.
You've been worth it too, baby. You know, everything that we have, everything that we've built has been worth it. So that's more than enough motivation to keep me pushing through.
You're so sweet. I love you.
I love you, baby.
All right. Well, that was a good.
was
That
good.
was a good one. So, yeah, this is gonna wrap up the first episode of Hanging Outside,
Hanging outside.
Beach Edition.
Beach edition, Malibu edition, baby.
So hopefully we were able to shed some light on how we navigate dating, our perspective on the comments about dating,
Yeah.
on our viral post. Shout out to everybody that made that happen for us. Can't forget to thank.
Big shout out.
Can't
Big
forget
shout
to
out.
thank the queen and the legend herself
Big shout out.
with the amazing information provided and, you know, helping us build this, essentially like giving us a layup.
Big layup. Yep.
So shout out to you, girl, and shout out to everybody else who's following us and in our comments, whether you hate it or you love it. We appreciate y'all, and keep hanging out with us.
Yep. Let's hang out.
That was so good.